Welcome back to Block TV. And at a time when markets are still seeing incredible volatility, we've seen a little bit of stability return to the cryptocurrency space. But as equities continue their wild ride, both up and down across the markets, we turn to our very own technical analyst, Joe Saz from New York, here to try and put some sense into where we stand right now and what directions we may take from here. Now, Joe, an important question I want to ask. I'm looking at equity markets there in the US particularly, and I'm looking at Bitcoin at the moment, and I'm seeing some pretty distinct parallels. Do we expect this to continue?
Yeah, that's a good observation. I think we're in a short-term correlation here. Obviously, gold is the exception, or one of them. But it's tough to say, Asher. I mean, it doesn't really matter how much research I do. You know, it's like we're living through a unique situation right now. I don't know if even a global epidemic of this sort has been seen in pretty much anyone's lifetime. We've experienced SARS and stuff like that, but I mean, I don't know, I don't really recall the impact it had. So I'm going to lean toward things are probably going to get worse in the stock market and can very well get worse in Bitcoin. But for now, I'm just going to focus on the technicals, and I'm going to have that elephant in the room as that external variable, trying to decide how to incorporate something like that into an analysis. It's really something that I think it's kind of, for me, unparalleled. You know, there's really nothing that I can compare it to. So it's tough answer there, Asher.
Certainly a tough one for all people, analysts, otherwise traders, just people living their day-to-day lives. But so then let's turn to that technical picture and see what we can draw out of that information, bearing in mind, obviously, the quote-unquote elephant in the room. Joe, what are you seeing on the charts?
Yeah, so first and most important, I mean, Bitcoin has really taken quite a fall. We're doing a similar play that we did when we crashed down from the 10,000s back to the 9,000s, finding an ultimate price floor, building some support in a couple areas, and then kind of dead cat bouncing. Oh, well, let's get out of here. All right, so of course we're dead cat bouncing a little bit, and I hope that this is the short term. Obviously, we were in a clear, beautiful bull run for quite some time. Bulls are really grinding it out and putting it, bringing it to the bears, and now we've found this area that I'm hoping is the short-term bear market reversal area. 7,600 happened to be a gap fill as well in the CME futures. So this gap has now been filled. So 76.85, this gap has now been filled. So I'm going to knock this one off the list. Now we have a massive gap up here. I mean, we're talking a $1,000 plus gap, or maybe less, maybe just under, maybe it was like 10% or something. But we have a massive gap right here. And I think that this thing is probably the next area to get tested. I was scared to go to sleep last night because the last thing I want is a wick and then a continuation of this possible bear trend that we're in. We have had an example here here's an example of a CME gap lasting for a number of months. But we still have a gap in the 11.7 region, 11,700. Now 9,060 to 8280. So I'm expecting these things to get filled. Right now, this is looking like a pretty sharp bounce on the 4-hour. I don't want to comment on backwardation just yet, but this is the contract expiring in June. And yeah, so far, here's the daily picture. We broke down from the head and shoulders. I was really hoping that since we were tilted up, this thing would have a bullish tint to it. And then it would, find this bottoming area, maybe wick down to the 128 and then bounce back up. Obviously, that didn't happen. So now we're just kind of reeling. And I'm not convinced yet that this is a continuation of the bull trend that we had so strong for so long. I mean, this thing was beautiful. Now we bottomed out at 76.36 from a 68.50 confirmed low. So I think this thing's really in jeopardy still. It's a tough call, Asher. I don't know what to say, if this is a continuation of a bear trend or a reversal of a short-term bear trend. Right now, I'm leaning toward reversal of short-term bear trend back to bullish operations into the halvening, and then a pullback again. But that's kind of a shot in the dark right now. Like bulls really need to step up and start pushing bears on their heels, and they haven't really done that yet.
Right. Certainly, it seems that a lot of options are still there on the table. But turning to the alts market as it stands right now, Joe, I mean, is there any hope there, any shining beads of light that we can see in the alts, or is it really just copying Bitcoin's market movement and not really being able to break away?
Yeah, let's take a look at F because this is one that's been performing, very well for so long. And of course, it tanked with the rest of the market. 16% move to the downside, completely destroying the 50-day moving average. A little bit of a reversal up in here. So Ethereum is still nearing a golden cross of the intermediate and long-term moving averages, and its distance from them won't be far. Interestingly enough, we had a wick near the setup trend line, which is this dotted green line right above my cursor there. So I don't know. S has, this is why this is getting so hard to call right now, Asher, because the technical pictures are telling me this is just a pullback. But we have that very, very strong external narrative going on in the space, in the world, as a matter of fact. And of course, we also have the plus token scam, dumping coins theoretically, or I don't even know if it's theoretically. I think there was a map that showed how their coins were moving and how they were dumping them. So, there's definitely some scam token sales going or dumping, right? They raised a ton of Bitcoin, I think a billion's worth. And so that's definitely causing an impact on the market every time that they sell off, on the open market. There's that external narrative. There's coronavirus. I mean, it's really tough to say what is going on here. But technically speaking, I think that we should be reversing this trend pretty soon. That's just as far as external variables are concerned, we do have some strong downward pressure in that sense. But I'm looking at this and I'm seeing like in the technical sense, I just can't see how this thing isn't going to reverse at around this point, and if we haven't started already.
And I wonder, Joe, I mean, we've seen this big dump, out of equities over the last couple of weeks. We've seen those markets crash and pull down. We've seen gold, making either staying steady or making some moderate gains overall. Obviously, when there's a panic, money tends to get pulled out everywhere, but safe havens exist so that when the cool heads prevail, people start to put their money back. Do you think we could see that turnaround, and is that something you're trying to factor in at all in your trading when it comes to Bitcoin in particular and crypto markets generally, that safe haven narrative could, into the medium term, let's say, start to play out again?
Yeah, that's a tough one. I feel like the safe haven argument in Bitcoin, to me, it's never going to go away. I just think it's a matter of what people are ready to use it for. Um, I I want to make sure I answer your question in full here. I was also thinking of some other things here while you were talking, but I, as far as a safe haven, gold obviously reacted to a safe haven narrative by going up in value, and everything else has seemed to really collapse as a result of that. So I'm assuming that consumers are pulling money out of whatever stocks and such to buy things that they think are more essential needs now than something maybe like a 3-year hold or a two, or maybe even a lifetime hold, right? A stock, right? So I think that's what consumers are doing right now is doomsday prepping essentially, and that's caused an impact on our overall view of what is a safe haven and what isn't. Again, what's a safe haven? Is a stock really a safe haven asset if the world is in a global epidemic and supply chains are shut down, or is food a safe haven asset, right? So I would argue, obviously, that food is your better bet, and I think a lot of people are too. So I have a feeling that's where money's transferring to. I remember briefly looking at a chart on like spam, the food that pretty much I guess lasts forever, and you can put on anything or whatever. People cook it with like eggs and stuff. And I remember seeing some sort of good price action there, going up and stuff. So I think there might be a situation here where people are looking for the shovels and not quite the gold. And I'm not digging deep. Obviously, I specialize in Bitcoin, but I do think that that's probably what we have going on right now as far as safe haven assets, if there are any in stocks. And as far as Bitcoin is concerned, it is a safe haven asset. It's just a matter of whether or not people are ready for it. And I don't think too many people are. I mean, there's too many examples of where Bitcoin would have been extremely useful. Greece, Argentina, Venezuela, um, France, of course, when they amidst their riots, they said that they were going to attack the banks and withdraw all their funds. They could have simply used Bitcoin and stuck it to the man even harder, right? So it's just a matter of when people are ready to use Bitcoin as a safe haven asset versus Bitcoin's ability to do that.
I like your turn of phrase there, Joe. Looking to buy the shovels, not the gold. An important turn for those looking to preempt what they foresee as market panics, concerns, fears, and see if they can make a little profit out of those situations. We'll have to watch this closely, how this all does pan out. Joe Saz, I want to thank you so much for helping to break it all down. For our viewers, stay with us at blocktv.com for all the latest in news and information. I'm Asher Westropp-Evans. Thanks for watching.
Watch us on Amazon Fire TV and Roku.